Hi, friend. Today we'll discuss the crucial topic of increasing testosterone levels. Why is it especially important to watch today's video to the end? Because today I will break down 12 ways on how to raise testosterone. And I realize that if you do it wrong, instead of benefits, you might only get a lot of harm or waste your time. So be sure to watch this video to the end. I will tell you about each method, how to do it correctly, and most importantly, what not to do, so as not to lower your testosterone level instead of increasing it. There is a list. I've studied what you read on the internet, what is recommended now, and decided to conduct such a review. Explain the reasoning and process. I've written out a whole list for myself. Let's go through each point. Probably the most popular method is abstaining from sex and masturbation. This method works. Scientific studies say it works, but there is a very big catch in the short term. Your testosterone level increases, but after about 2.5 weeks, if you continue to abstain, your testosterone level will start to drop. There are adepts, a whole movement. I call them abstainers, who say that you don't need to have sex if you're not planning to have children. But unfortunately, modern medicine says that not everyone has nocturnal emissions. Regular ejaculation, unfortunately or fortunately, should be, otherwise you will develop congestive prostatitis. And the level of testosterone will drop in a man who does not live a regular or natural or surrogate sexual life. Sleep's importance? Immense. And it's not just about testosterone, but many hormones. What? We will probably shoot a separate episode about sleep and what hormones are released? Indeed, testosterone and sleep are closely related. It's not only about the amount of sleep, but also its quality. You need to sleep well, deeply, and at least 7-8 hours. If you sleep 6 hours or less, your testosterone level can decrease by 20-25%, according to scientific research. So in fact, it's not sleep that increases testosterone, but its deficiency decreases it. That is, from the fact that you will sleep 10 hours, your testosterone will not pile up. It's not a battery charge, but if you sleep little, then indeed the level of testosterone will fall. Can you sleep well every night? Or if you didn't sleep one day, can you compensate for it in 2 days? You can, of course, you can make up for it with a daytime nap. If you don't sleep at night, then actually an hour-and-a-half nap during the day can play a very important role in your hormonal background, restoring your nervous system primarily. The ideal option is to wake up not by an alarm clock, that is, to sleep as much as you want. If we talk about the health of animals in a zoo, they will not wake up by an alarm clock, so we should ideally do the same. But how many of you wake up without an alarm clock and sleep as much as you want? Of course, very few. We get up for work, we go to study, and this, unfortunately, is the endurance of progress. And with this, unfortunately, we sometimes just can't do anything. So it's very important in other places not to try to spoil this picture. Remember this? Definitely like it and listen further. Do a lot of long cardio. It's a stupid way. In fact, long cardio will reduce your testosterone level, but cardio can actually help you. It has shown itself very well in increasing testosterone levels. High interval, high intensity cardio, so-called high intensity interval training. That is when the workouts are short but very intense. For example, sprinting helps a lot. In addition to increasing your testosterone levels, you won't have time to mentally fatigue. It will also have, so to speak, an afterburn effect. That is, even after the workout, there is a whole hormonal surge and changes that stay with you throughout the day. Running long and exhausting won't increase your testosterone level. But if the workouts are thoughtful, disciplined, not prolonged, and in a moderate volume, testosterone will actually help you increase it. Well, what about these acquaintances who took up marathon running, got fit, lost weight, and became more masculine? Listen, well, firstly, marathon runners are quite thin, not bulky. It's a specific body structure. Not everyone, in principle, is given to run in a marathon. We're talking about the general mass of people, about what we see every day. To the marathon, to be able to run, they have their daily routine, all their nutrition, everything is adjusted for this. And then you realize that this is a professional athlete. One doesn't immediately run marathons. They are rare events. They don't run it every 2-3 days. And we're talking about the types of loads that are regular for us. That is, this is your lifestyle. This is your daily practice. This is what you practice 2-3 times a week. The next opinion sounds like this. Choose products rich in vitamin D, zinc, magnesium. Yes, it works, but if you don't have a vitamin D deficiency, if you don't have a magnesium deficiency, and if you have enough fats in your diet, it doesn't work in such a way that you added vitamin D and there's nowhere to put it. There's nowhere to put the fats, and the body starts to increase the testosterone level out of necessity. Therefore, unfortunately, it doesn't work. Therefore, if you have a deficiency of these things, then yes, then they will work. Then your testosterone level may, and with a deficiency, if it is expressed as a lack of vitamin D, for example, then testosterone falls, maybe not by 10-20%, but by 40-50%, and sometimes even up to 60%. Can you fathom its significance? It's astounding. Vitamin D, ashwagandha. Well, in essence, we've talked about vitamin D. Ashwagandha is an adaptogen. Not only ashwagandha, there are many different other herbs. It's interesting on actually works. The thing is, if you're a heavy power lifter, you've already seen all sorts of things, but it won't give you much. If we're talking about an average person, 300 milligrams of ashwagandha per day really works. It can raise testosterone levels by 30%. It really works. That's why, probably, one of the few ways, in the absence of contraindications to this wonderful herb, is of course the same ginseng, which, by the way, helps as a stimulant. Adaptogen stimulant, it increases immunity in the same way, that is, it mobilizes the body's forces, makes all endocrine organs work more actively. Not only this and testosterone we are talking about, but the work of other organs. Adrenal glands improves, helps with the thyroid, that is, it makes a person more active. Ashwagandha also sometimes helps to get out of hypothyroidism. Now, the main thing is to pull out of context and think that's it. Ashwagandha, testosterone deficiency, hypothyroidism. Because there are cases when only to the doctor, only drugs, but a small bonus, a small profit. You are engaged, yes, actively. Some period of preparation is now going to the competition's ad, this is allowed, this can be. And if this suits you, this is safe. You can't just sit for years. So usually it's 6 to 8 weeks, and then there should be a break, continuity, at least the duration of admission. Constantly, if you will take it, you will simply not perceive it as an adaptogen. Firstly, it will not work. Secondly, a collapse can sometimes occur over a long period. That is, the organ gets tired, so to speak, and yes, it works for a short period of time, but it's definitely not worth taking it constantly. Friends, it would be very interesting if you wrote your stories in the comments about what you have tried and what has helped you. Because it didn't help by feelings, but it helped by analyses. Because often you take some drugs and they say, here, probably, raised your testosterone, it goes, but they're not that it didn't rise, it even decreases and you feel better because, well, also, for example, ashwagandha just adds to your cheerfulness, your nervous system somehow cheers up. So it's very important by analyses. If you had experience, write, share, it will be very interesting for me to read. They say, according to the analyses, it jumps, that is, it was exhausted. Not exhausted, well, like a bunch of factors influence the analysis. Yes, I concur. And that's why we're planning to soon record and release a video on how to correctly prepare for this delivery and interpret testosterone analyses. Yes, indeed, you're right. Depending on how you submitted, your analyses can be completely different, and that's why I even recommend always when changes do not correspond to the clinical picture, sometimes to retake. One must question, was he unwell before? Under what circumstances and when did he take the test? What was the day like? He exercises 5-6 times a week conditionally, complained of feeling unwell before taking the testosterone test. He took a 2-week break in Egypt, did nothing, took the test the day after his return. Says, well, it seems it's not about testosterone, but about maintaining normal conditions, not creating ideal ones, and then wondering why testosterone level is normal. Next opinion. You need to engage in strength, high-intensity workouts. Listen, well, from one side, yes, a person who does not engage in sports and a person who does engage in sports, they differ endocrinologically. If you constantly stimulate your body, if you constantly do strength work, your testosterone level will be higher. But why do athletes often come who train 5-6 times a week or for 2-3 hours? They just don't have enough resources to recover. So the main thing here is to understand the golden mean, where you feel good and where you look good. Because more often than not, especially intense workouts are definitely not better for a natural athlete. More often than not, it means worse, exhausting, pushing you into endocrinological stress. So dear friends, don't try to live in the gym, shorten your workouts, make them intense but short. For a natural athlete on average, I understand, everyone is genetically different, but for a natural athlete, ideally it's 3, maximum 4 workouts. lasting an hour to an hour and a half. Give up alcohol. Well, probably such things are so obvious, simple, and understandable that it really harms. Alcohol is really harmful. I would add smoking here, definitely smoking. I would add drugs. I know sugar can be added here because it's also a separate type of drug, I would say. There's too little of the good stuff and plenty of the bad. And indeed, yes, if you remove these harmful habits from your daily, so to speak, routine, it will be better. Understandably, if you drink once a month, nothing terrible will happen. I'm discussing the widespread belief that a nightly bottle of wine is beneficial. Alcohol is harmful even in small amounts on a regular basis. Scientists' stance on alcohol has evolved. Previously, it was thought that daily moderate consumption, like a bottle of red wine, wasn't harmful. Now, they assert there are no safe alcohol levels. While a little alcohol might not cause immediate harm, regular consumption can have negative effects. This isn't my opinion, but the findings of numerous studies. Even athletes and other notable figures drink. However, research indicates that there are no benefits to this. In fact, excessive drinking can disrupt your endocrine system. About smoking, yes, and various vapes, electronic cigarettes are also harmful to testosterone or less. They are harmful not only to testosterone, but also the female reproductive system suffers. I posted a separate video on the topic of vapes in my Instagram. It's short, maybe. I'll shoot a separate one with good quality and post it on the channel because I got a lot of feedback on this issue. So if you want me to shoot a separate and more detailed video about vapes, about electronic cigarettes, studied, so to speak, scientific knowledge, be sure to subscribe to the channel, put a bell, and you will see it first. Minimize stress factors and master calming techniques. Meditate, in other words. I measure my pulse, measure every morning when I go to the toilet or stand in the shower, or just woke up, that is, in a state of calm. I know my pulse. If I see that my pulse begins to rise in the morning, I know that my nervous system probably needs rest. Because we most often associate fatigue with what we feel. We sometimes start to feel it when we've already reached some kind of limit, when we already feel bad about ourselves. Therefore, learn to feel. This is very important. Your entire endocrine system, it's tied to your nervous system. The concept of neuroendocrinology exists. Your negative emotional state and tiredness produce harmful hormones. Therefore, when you are stressed, you don't want sex just like that. Prolactin rises, testosterone drops, cortisol escalates. There aren't bad or good hormones. Any hormone can be a wild evil or insanely good, depending on its level and where it is applied. Yes, you'll be overworked and get little rest, leading to constant stress and no recovery time. Remember, lack of rest can cause low testosterone levels and high stress hormones, making it tough to break free from this cycle. So how to understand? Is it time to go rest? Or can you work a little more? There, get carried away. There, how to understand. It's very difficult. The most important thing is to understand, are you tired or are you just lazy? And fatigue, you also need to understand, is it physical or psychological? Because if it's psychological fatigue, it's actually better to go to the gym. There will be a change of dominance. That is, you will reload your moral load. You will reload your central nervous system through training. On the contrary, it's good, but if you're physically tired, it's better not to go. Most importantly, learn to overcome laziness. We often convince ourselves that we're tired today. What do? I look at what kind of day I had. Am I genuinely exhausted or just anxious? But if I didn't have surgery, if I wasn't standing somewhere there for several hours in probes, if I basically ate normally, and for some reason I don't want to go to the hall, I understand that this is just laziness, and I spit on it, and I will go. But if I stood there for 6, 8, 9 hours on operations, if I didn't sleep the night before, well, my friends, there will be no benefit from such training. And your testosterone will not just drop, it will plummet. So go rest, eat, go to bed early, watch a good movie, read a book, but don't go to the gym. It will do more harm than good. That's why many people can't achieve any full figure, even though they live in the gym, because they exacerbate their stressful work, their chronic fatigue. They further exacerbate it with the gym because there's a lot of it. I think you've seen many of those who are usually full, running from morning till night. No matter when you come to the gym, he's in the gym, but he's always just as full. Lose the extra weight. Actually, the more you weigh, the more testosterone you need. The connection also works in reverse. Your high weight is due to excessive eating and inadequate movement. But when people say lose weight, what's the real purpose? Eat less, move more correctly? Or to adjust the work of your endocrine systems? Various fat burners there. Well, I don't believe in fat burners. I'll tell you why later. Why does testosterone improve when people say lose weight? Because what you're losing in many ways is making you a healthier person by itself. Well, diet helps, doesn't it? It helps. Changing your lifestyle is beneficial. You start drinking more water, you sleep more. That is, you really start taking vitamins, it gets better. But yes, and the very excess weight also reduces your testosterone level. The quality of your spermogram decreases, your lipid profile deteriorates, your sensitivity to insulin changes when you lose weight. It gets better. Really, our fat is not a friend. You know, as one friend of mine said, when overweight clients came in and said, write down 10 things that excess weight gave you good in life, and they often couldn't write anything. In fact, excess weight, it gives you nothing good in life. So, dear friends, excess weight is the enemy of a good testosterone level. Does calorie deficit affect? It does. Not starving, but not full either. Here's starvation, by the way. It's probably the next point. Let's solve two simultaneously. If this is a style of eating, if we call it intermittent fasting, it, on the contrary, increases the level of testosterone. Intermittent fasting is when you eat for a certain number of hours a day, or sometimes you do periodic fasting. That is, you fast once a week. Rather, it boosts testosterone levels. But if you are in a chronic form, like anorexic ladies, for example, or guys, if you are undernourished and you exist in a calorie deficit, your body will switch to energy conservation. It will switch to save our souls mode. It won't care about reproduction. It won't care about preserving muscle. It will preserve what it needs to survive. It will preserve fat. It will lower testosterone levels. It will reduce your activity. You will feel lazy. You won't want anything. You will have a terrible mood. So, yes, indeed, everything is logical. Everything is simple. Still, if you go on a diet, don't equate it to some kind of starvation. It should be a proper diet that matches your goals and needs. And not just eat less, and the less you eat, the better. That's false. It reduces your testosterone. So, yes, indeed, a testosterone deficiency is often caused by a low-calorie intake. If you need to lose weight, who is more important, a dietitian or a trainer? Who matters more? Some argue sports aren't as crucial, emphasizing diet as key. Most importantly, you are yourself. Because even if a dietitian is dancing around you, even if there are 1,000 of your curator sportsmen, nothing will work. All these crazy diets are cool. They won't work if you don't follow them. And if you stick to the term, even the simplest elementary diets will give a stunning result. Consistency is key. Consistency. This is the main secret. Consistency. They're trying to find some miracle diets that will work in a short period of time. Maintain a simple diet consistently. I also examined different diets and studied about them. These are specific products, like drinking pomegranate juice, eating Greek nuts, eating more spinach. For example, a list of products that will definitely raise testosterone. Turmeric, for instance, they write about turmeric everywhere. I'd compare turmeric to ashwagandha. Yes, indeed, it may work as an adaptogen. And about the products, many of these products contain cholesterol, contain zinc, magnesium. Well, why, for example, many seafoods are recommended for increasing testosterone, and they are, for example, aphrodisiacs, including because their nutritional composition includes zinc. Yes, indeed, if you have a zinc and magnesium deficiency, you consume seafood, which contains this. It will help you. But if you don't have this deficiency, it's unlikely to help you. Just like a fat deficiency, which you lack. You sit there, consume much more than you need fats. And the fact that you consume even more, you will just get fat and puffy. From overeating fats, if it's not a high-fat diet, but you just stuffed your diet with fat to raise testosterone. And all you've raised is your belt size by 2 notches. The next significant thing I sometimes do, not daily, but I do, is a contrast shower. It really helps, and it's very beneficial for your endocrine system. The main thing is to do it correctly, so don't turn a good tool into a devil's weapon. Make a habit of flossing. Do it regularly, at least a few times a week if it's difficult. Start with flossing. B, doing it right. Temperature changes should be sharp. Continuity exists with numerous special schemes available online. You can look up how to properly start using a contrast shower. It clearly stipulates there the duration for hot and cold and how to do this correctly. Therefore, do not turn a good tool into a devil's weapon. Do everything wisely, not just listen to the video now. Go with a bucket of ice water on the first day, and tomorrow they will catch a cold for 2 weeks. So gradually, with not such contrasting temperatures, increase the contrast, increase the duration. From 10-15 seconds, you'll ultimately hit 30 seconds. Then you can even practice with a cold bath. This is also helpful. We could create a standalone video on it, among other topics. It'll be fascinating. I did a live broadcast on this with Sasha Volkov, and we had numerous questions. I would be happy if this topic is interesting. Write in the comments. Let's see, because I think this topic is very trendy now. This includes cryo chambers, cold baths, ice baths, scrubbing, and bathing in a hole in the ice. In essence, all this can be merged, and it's intriguing to investigate. If you think it's worth it, hit like, and we'll definitely film it. The next video will be about such a royal question, as I call it. The shortest, but the most important. This is the time of sexual act and duration, premature ejaculation. This, as they say in plain language, is rapid-fire speed, which ruins relationships. I will tell you how, what, and why can be done with this problem, what modern methods exist, how effective they are. And I will introduce you to the state of affairs, what you can count on, what is not worth spending your time on, and what modern science says about all these methods.